Namaste everyone. My name is Victoria Brunacci and I'm sharing you my story. And this is part 2. Not the easy part to tell, especially online. I actually really never talked about this online. And just a few of my close friends know this part of my story. But if you did watch part 1, you are following this story, you will see that I was born in Argentina. I grew up in Brazil in this very, very tiny town in the middle of the forest. Most of my friends were animals until I was 10 years old. I didn't really have any neighbors. And then finally I moved to this town. And my mom, she moved to Brazil because we were running away from dictator, from the militaries. And this is a part of my story that I need to talk about, trauma. So it's not an easy thing to talk about, And my mom, she got pregnant of me when she was really young, 20-something. And my father, he was studying to be a doctor, which he graduated with honors and all that. But his true passion until today was the rock and roll. Yeah, he had multiple rock bands. And it got to a point that when I was born, he told my mom, well, what about if you go out to work and I stay with the baby so I can study for, med school? And that was a little strange because I was a newborn, and of course that didn't work out and she got divorced. And then she got together with my stepdad, and that raised me since I was, again, 2 until I decided to move out of my parents. And my stepdad, he basically replaced my dad. And that was all good besides the fact that he was a pedophile. And hard to say. But when I was 6 years old, has an incident, not like in purpose, basically his hands reach part of my body that he didn't supposed to. And I was really confused about that. I was just 6 years old. And I could tell that he was really turned on by that, even though I was a baby. And that was the only physical incident that I had experienced with him. But he was my dad, in that moment. And I kept a secret, and I never told my mom for like 10 years, because I also had felt and observed how important was for her the family union that she really wanted to preserve after her first divorce. By that time, I already had 2 brothers, a brother and sister actually, and also I wanted to preserve their father figure and this whole thing. But the most creepy part wasn't that. I know, that wasn't the creepy part. So as I grew up, when I turned 7, 8, 9, 10, literally until my 17, my stepdad will show up in the middle of the night in my room. I will share the room with my brother in this tiny, tiny town in Brazil, and watch me and be near me. And God forbid, when I turn after 14, that usually the women blossom and becomes bigger chest and bigger everywhere, and I took the shape of a woman. I think that was even worse. So I kept silence for many years. I was really confused by the whole thing. Again, because it wasn't another physical contact, I felt that it was okay. But during this whole time, I was sleeping with an eye open, and sometimes towards after my 15, I started getting really like, okay, this is really not right behavior. So instead, pretend that I was sleeping or I was going to wake up, I will actually open my eyes and I will look at him like just next to me, and I'm like, Dad, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, the night is cold and I'm going to cover you up. Of course, for him was also probably some type of two personalities inside one heart, the dad and the pedophile living in that body. Very, very hard to talk about this, but I didn't realize how much damage had that done in my heart and in my brain, because basically I got used to live in a defensive mode, ready to wake up or protect myself, or of course I don't want any hands in my body or anything like that. And it got to a point that when I turned 17, I just kind of like, okay, Mom, I had enough from this small town. I gotta go to the city. And that's where I moved to my grandparents' house in Buenos Aires. It was a big city. Buenos Aires is like New York, it's like London, it's like a super amazing, cool city. I don't know if you've never been there, but it's super, has lots of art, lots of music, lots of theater. And I had a kind of first boyfriend, and also his family was super nice to me and embraced me. So I felt very good with the transition, but I was 17 and I really never returned home because of the situation. And years go by, like 5 years go by, and I'm still with this boyfriend. Everything is great. I kept a secret because I wanted to preserve my family. And then finally, it was a mixed feeling, because how you hate someone that raised you, because even though he had this pedophile style, he teach me how to ride the bicycle and how to wake up and organize my room in the morning and do my homework and stuff like that. So it was very confusing, right? But I tried to put everything under the carpet, like they say, and not really deal with it, because first I was a child, second I didn't want to destroy my brother and sister and my family, and third I'm like, well, he actually didn't put hands on my body again, it's just a fantasy, hopefully it vanished away, right? So those were my defense mechanisms in a way. So years go by, and then I'm basically engaged with this boyfriend. My family knows him, we all know each other, it's great. And so my stepdad goes to visit in Argentina, and he's like, I want to see you. I'm like, okay, cool. And again, it's been 5 years of any type of incident. And so I ended up having a late dinner, and I was at his mom's house, and there was no one there, and has multiple bedrooms. So I decided to sleep there. And I went to sleep, and I closed the door. By then, I'm like 24 years old. And 3 a.m. in the morning, I wake up, and I'm in the bed, and he's in the door. Away from me, but he's on the door. He's just watching me, standing there and watching. And that was the time that I say, I hold this secret for so long, but I actually gotta tell you that you need help. You're actually very sick. You need psychological help. I need psychological help. And I gotta tell my mom. And then I told my mom over the phone. She basically had a heart attack. She divorced him immediately. And in that time, I decided not to tell my brother and sister, still to preserve their image of their father. But it was a big ride for all of us. And I always pledged for forgiveness, and I told him, I know you love me deep down there, and so I'm willing to forgive you if you can find a therapist and do some psychological treatment, and I also will do it, and Mom also should do it. And he actually went to I don't know, 2 sessions, and then he just give up. So that's when it's like, how can I forgive someone? They're not even willing to work on it, right? And then soon enough, a year after this happened, without my sister knowing anything, he went and basically married and made a baby with one of my little sister's best friends from high school. Not best friend, but friends, acquaintances. And she was like 19 years old, you know? So I didn't even need to say anything. It was very clear that he was into young children and kids. And so, yeah, that's the part 2 of my story. It's not like the fun one. But especially in this time that we're living in quarantine, and with yoga, I really learned how to confront my shadows and question and reflect and see how can I go down to the mud and blossom like a lotus flower. And it's really like that. And we did a lot of talking with my mom and about this, and I finally told my dad about this as well this year, actually very recently. And my brother and sister, I kind of told them because, you know, they couldn't understand my behavior. I didn't really want to be around my stepdad any longer on the holiday gatherings, and I you know, I mean, I couldn't hold the secret for any longer. But I gotta say that, especially on this healing world that we are here in, you know, working with yoga and Reiki, I would say, you know, around 5 people from 10 have trauma, or sometimes 8 people from 10 have some type of trauma. And maybe it wasn't a sexual trauma, maybe someone verbally abused of you when you were a child, you know, downgrading you, which he also will be doing that with my mom and I. You know, he had also an alcohol problem. So, I know, right? Not an easy thing to talk, but I think it's important, just like the lotus flower. When you have some darkness, when you have some trauma like this, it is important to talk about. It is important to bring it to the light. And of course, I don't usually go on Instagram and just say things like this, but since I'm talking about my biography, I actually need to mention this because, you know, again, in this quarantine time, especially that a lot of pause and solitude time is happening, I'm like, do I really forgive him, or I forgot? Or how can I know if I really forgive him? Because I thought, okay, I think I forgive him. I think I forgive him. Do I really forgive him? So it's not easy. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with me in this moment. So I start exploring and meditate on, did I really forgive? And I'm sure you have someone that hurt you really bad, maybe your ex-husband, or maybe someone in your family, or an ex, or whatever, a friend. And how I realized that if I truly forgive is understanding what is the good thing that brought to my life through this experience. How much did I grow through this experience? So I can tell you, because of this, I became a warrior. I became so strong. I am a survivor. I left my house, never come back. I was independent financially since I'm 14. I started working when I was 13. Because he was not going to provide any security for us, and I was tall enough to work, I guess. And so, it made me as a person. It made me strong. It made me a survivor. It made me a warrior. And I came to America with $300 in my pocket, and I did all kinds of work. I work in a law firm. I work in restaurants. I work even dancing on club space or something like that. And finally I find yoga, and through yoga I guess the first feeling that I received that was so beautiful was like the capacity of acceptance, the capacity of love myself as I am, with all my imperfections and all my beauty, and just honor that, right? Just honor that. So we all have traumas, but what is that lesson for us? What is you can learn? And you can always have the choice. You can be the victim of the experience, or you can learn from the experience. And a lot of people don't have the spiritual platform or the willpower to say, okay, I'm going to overcome this. I'm no longer a victim of my past experiences, and I'm going to grow from this. So I think that's the road that, thank God, I took. And I know a lot of people that are also, overcome trauma, and traumas even worse than mine. Like imagine you being a sex slave, right? So that can be really crazy. So you always have that option to move forward in your life and grow from the experience, or to sink down and to victimize yourself and live on the past. But every day is a new day. Every day is a moment for us to okay, thank you, I'm breathing. Thank you, I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and I can do something with this. I can create a garden with this. I can hold a baby for a single mom with this. I can invite my friends that maybe don't have what to eat and share my food with them today. It's always something that we can clean our karma in a more proactive, positive action towards our life. So, not easy to talk about this in camera. Sorry if I'm a little nervous about it, but it's really not easy. And I will say to all my past relationships, I'm sorry, because a lot of times I was projecting that inner child that was afraid, and I immediately was in a defensive mode with my exes, like, okay, you want to hurt me, I will hurt you first. You want to hurt me, watch me running away from you. And I boycott a lot of my relationship because of that, because I was, I'd rather not be vulnerable to get hurt again than, better just to be quiet and alone. And so this is something that I'm still processing, and sometimes it's a hard conversation I need to have with my partners. Hey, by the way, I have some traumas that we need to talk about, and if I trying to push away, it's not really me, it's my inner child. And this is a long life process of healing, of awareness, and whatever tools will click with you is either, meditating about it, literally holding that inner child and being a good parent for your inner child yourself, because I'm no longer a baby now, and I'm a grown woman, and I can take care of my inner child better than the other years. Seeking some help, any type of, coaching or yoga, or, even plant medicine, actually very good, has a therapy as well. So, find your way to not put that under the carpet, right? To be aware, and maybe sharing your story like I'm sharing with you today, inspire others to all right, well, I have some dirty dishes to wash with my family, right? Because putting things under the carpet, it will come to a moment that your chakras will be blocked, that communication didn't go through, you have that grudge in your heart. How are you going to enter the kingdom of heaven with all that negative baggage that you've been carrying throughout your life? So sooner or later, you will need to clean it out. You will need to, let all that go and be the light and be lighter. And the best way is just to, bring it to clarity. It's not an easy thing, but it feels much better to just be what it is than trying to pretend that everything is perfect and it's okay. And the other sad thing about this part too is that, just like me, a lot of the sexual abuse that is happening nowadays is from direct family. Is the uncle, is the godfather, is the father, is the mom. It's very sad. So if you are one of those childs, you're not alone. You're not alone, and has people that can help you. I'm available if you feel like this part to resonate. And if you need someone just to talk, just to vent out. Yeah, I'm not a psychologist. I have some friends that are psychologists and I also can refer, but maybe just an informal talk. I've been there, I understand. Some deep listening, someone to hear you. I am available for that because I truly believe that we are here to support each other. And this is, of course, is my gift to you. It's free of charge. Just, you need to be heard. I will be your ears. Okay? So this is what happened, guys. Under the scenes, on this beautiful mountain town, I have a lot of pressure, And not just on my stepdad. As I tried to explain to you in part 1, I was singled out on my town. I had double D's back on the days, because back on the days my family still was feeding me meat and chicken with so much hormones, right? Which, of course, when I started yoga, I quit all that eventually. But I was very much big, and I was riding horses, Even the mayor was after me, like clearly after me, and I was a minor, So, okay, when I was 17, I moved to Buenos Aires, and I really had a great time, besides the fact that my grandma loved her to death, but she was extremely religious Catholic, and one time, she was like, you gotta get baptized. So I got baptized. I was like 19. Everyone is a baby, and I'm like here. But I did it, and I did it. I mean, I love Jesus, but regardless, I just don't believe on the institutions that are promoting a lot of these religions, because they're a money maker, and money is not the way of the heart, the way of spirituality. It really not. It's not. And Jesus was very much humble anyway. But anyhow, so it was this experience, with her. But I had a great time, and I learned the city ways, I was doing theater, I was doing music, I was learning so much, I was going to school. So coming from the farm and the horses, I adapted really well to the city, and I love it. I love it. I love the subways, I love the rhythm, I love the lights, and it was really an amazing experience. And then after that, I stayed there for like 5 years, and I actually was working in a big pharmaceutical company. I'm not going to mention the name, but they had 150 franchises in 50 countries, so really, really big. I saved all the money. And by the time I was 20, I bought land in a beach town in Brazil, which I have until today. So everyone was buying shoes and cars and expensive dresses. Not me. Not me. I already had the vision of living, in nature when I become older. But after 5 years, and I finished this school for tourism and administration, and I was like, what I'm going to do now? And I asked my boyfriend, like, what we're going to do now? We've been here 5 years, we're already, And so the proposal to come to Miami appeared in our lives, and that's how I got here. But that will be for part 3. And well, thank you for sharing this space again. You know, not that easy. I'm thankful for the experiences that had come into my life that made me the person that I am today. And thank you for yoga, and thank you for everyone that has supported my path until this moment. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support and subscribe the channel. Namaste.